are live on social media. We are go.
Hello everyone, I'm Woman FIDE Master Adriana. I would be moderating the session today. We are very pleased to welcome those of you who joined us for a long time ago, as well as those who are new to the Nurture community. Also, we welcome back GM Boris Avrukh on the Nurture platform with his camp Opposite Color Bishops. Now I will say a few words about Boris. Boris became a Grandmaster in 1997. He has won a lot of strong tournaments and also trained with some of the best players in the world, like Kramnik, Kurana, Wesley So, and many more. Boris is well known as one of the primary opening theoreticians of the modern era. Before we start, I would like to explain some do's and don'ts of the session. So use chat box for answering and asking questions about positions. Use Q&A box to ask questions about chess in general. Avoid spamming in chat and repeating the questions. If you're unable to log in, just please bear with us. We are adding functionality so you will be able to enjoy the chess content from the masters as before very soon. And we would like to see you next time on other free camp with topic playing with bishop pair. So, Boris, how are you? You can start.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Just 1 second, guys. Quickly sharing the screen.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I think the board is perfect. Hello, guys. Good evening, mostly, but I know there are some quite often players from other countries. Good morning, good night. So glad to see you here. It's oh, 1 second. I'm sorry. Glad to see you here for my next class. We also continue in March. With our lectures. So today topics, we will talk about opposite color bishops, right? So I think, guys, when people hear about opposite color bishops, what do we think first? First, we think, oh, there is like probably some serious drawish tendencies, right? So that's probably that this game ended in a draw, all stuff like this, right? Well, so here it's interesting, like what one Kushal answer in initiative. So it's a signal for initiative. Yeah, well, it's also true. It's also true, and we will talk about this during the class, obviously. Now, one of the goals of my lecture today to prove that it's actually there is a lot of play. You know, there is a lot of play, and there are like you should fight, and there are like a lot of nuances. I mean, I'm pretty sure that like guys, like at your level, it's still fighting chess and still the possibility of many mistakes. But I know some players kind of like get like discouraged, let's say, to continue. Well, it's a bishop pair, it should be draw. And stuff like this, right? So it's very important. It's very important to know the rules and to try and fight, right? So we of course we want to play fighting chess, to have like, you know, interesting games, and you know, we need to improve, right? So guys, definitely the more towards the end game you get, like the less pieces you have, the more drawish tendencies, right? So the more drawish chances. Now like there are like well-known like end games where like it's pawn down, but it's actually easy draw, right? So by the way, one of the defensive methods is like to go, like we talked about defense like last time. That was a little bit different strategy, right? Because we had the bishops of the same color. But if we have, let's say, the opportunity, like we have a tough position, and they say, well, you have a chance transfer into endgame with position with opposite color, bishops of opposite color, instead of suffering, but maybe being pawned down, but kind of have a decent position, not so passive. So it's one of the methods. Transferring into like opposite color bishops, of course, like rook endgames as well, right? Now, but actually so like I said, like pawn down, right? Like there are, of course, like you know, sometimes 2 pawns are not enough to win with opposite color bishops, right? 2 pawns not enough. Like there are many examples. I mean, the one which is immediately comes up in my mind, it's actually game between Kramnik and Kasparov in their world championship match. And they actually both players believe that this was a crucial game because Kasparov was pressing. He didn't win a single game there, right? But he was the closest he got, like that was this game, and he was pressing and this, but Kramnik was able to hold this endgame with 2 pawns down. Like it was for a long time 1 pawn down and then 2 pawns down, and he was able to hold. So of course there are drawish tendencies. I'm not gonna tell you that, oh well, you know, it's all not correct, of course, right? So many people, so there is an option to use this in our favor. But today, let me guys show you one example where like you'll see like actually endgame example. There are of course many middle game is just a play, right? It's just a play. There are actually potentially a lot of fight, but I wanted to show you that not every endgame is actually drawish. So so this is the game. This is the game taken from actually female World Cup finals in 2018, played between a Chinese player and Russian player, Yuwen Yuni. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's still world champion, right? Like I'm always like slightly confused about women chess, but I think she's still world champion, if I understand correctly. And the player from like Russian player Yekaterina Lagno, right? So I mean, there was this tournament, World Cup. It's called World Cup. They played, and eventually, like in the final, they played after 6 rounds or something like that, right? Actually, in this final, there were like quite a few interesting games. I have this game. I have another game which was a great game to show like tactical chess and dynamic chess, like initiative. So but this one was like very, very special. I also guys, to be honest, like I worked a little bit with the player that I mentioned, like Ekaterina. I worked like many years ago, and she of course like very, very strong, and like the Chinese grandmaster does not require any introduction. She's like, I think already for a few years world champion. She won like 2 or 3 matches, so no questions about. Okay guys, so let's go through the opening moves like really quick. Knight f3, knight f6, g3, d5. So it starts kind of like a little bit strange, right? But eventually guys, it's transposed. Guys, what do you think? What is this position? Who knows what's the opening? Let's say white played c4. Yeah. Reverse Grunfeld, Tarrasch. I mean, it's actually kind of like, yeah, guys, it's basically Catalan, right? It's basically Catalan, and you know, the variation with c5. But it's actually correct who mentioned Tarrasch, right? It can be Tarrasch as well. It's kind of like black setup is a Tarrasch, right? And I would say that even Kushal is right. Reverse Grunfeld. It is a reverse Grunfeld. Unofficial name. So it's very interesting, guys. You know, I was the guy who since 1995 played Grunfeld. It's my like pet opening. It's the opening that I kind of like never changed and keep on playing. And since the coach showed me in 1995, I kept on playing 90. So big expert. Of course, I have books and stuff like this, right? I have 2 books on Grunfeld. Now I started to play Catalan, and just like, you know, I like Catalan. I played, and then only after a few years, somebody mentioned to me that actually Catalan is a reverse Grunfeld, and I didn't feel this. Like I didn't. Well, now once he said I feel this, but I didn't know this. It's not like official name or something, right? And he's like, of course you like it because it's reverse Grunfeld. I'm like, reverse Grunfeld. Oh, really? Yeah, and it's like if you, according to the setup, you can see it's totally different play because of extra tempo, but it is reverse Grunfeld, like in terms of setup, right? So, by the way, guys, DC4, it's considered to be pretty good system for black nowadays. C5, DC4, many strong grandmasters playing this system. So we have different moves in this position. I personally, in my book, recommended Queen A4 in this position. But in this specific game, we saw DC5. It's a popular move, DC5, right? Now there are also like some ideas with the pawn sacrifice where white either plays knight a3, allowing to take on c4, or they play maybe knight a5 is even knight a5 is even more popular. Knight a5, so it's like usually bishop d7. Actually, it's not allowed to take anywhere, bishop d7, and so on. Like there is knight c4, knight a3. So there are many options. There are many options, and this is what I like in Catalan, that there are options for white. Always there are options. So I can play one game this, people prepare, I can change. So just keep in mind, not the topic, like a little bit off topic, but that's my point. So DC5 in this position, queen d1, rook d1, bishop c5. Now Lagdo, she played in this position the move that was actually during this match quite popular. She played knight d2. Looks a little bit weird, right? But there is one very special idea. So you go knight fd2, and the big question is why not knight bd2, right? Which is the main theory. Guys, what do you think? What's the difference? Oh, Kushal, no, this is too much. What is bishop f2? This is too much. I don't think it's working. I mean, it's very interesting. I have never thought about that. Okay, guys. So, well, bishop f2, knight g4. Well, fantastic idea. But there will be probably positioned with like 2 pieces, which is clearly better for white. Guys, the point, well, b5 is risky with this diagonal, guys. But here's the thing: like when you play knight d2, which is the main move theoretically, black has c3, right? So that's the main theory. c3. What's the point? Slightly damages pawn structure, right? c3, bc3, and now there is either castle in this position, or bishop d7. And in many cases, followed by queenside castle. So this is how the theory plays out, right? So it's very interesting. Now, at some point, knight fd2 started. I think, like, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Magnus won, one of the first players who played. Yes. So there was a game, Magnus against Pentala Hare Krishna, where he introduced this move. It was 2017. So this game played is 2018. You know, guys, just to understand what is happening at the highest level and grandmaster level. So like he introduced the move, like he won the game because it was like relatively new idea. Now, new idea in terms of like that Carlsen played this for the first time, and its first time happened at this level. Now definitely there are some old games that nobody paid attention. Then Magnus won, then a couple of other people won, and in 2018 it was still good. It was still good, right? Like so, but then slowly but surely, Black developed, like the more time goes, the more people checking with computers and top players playing and so on, and they finally discovered how to equalize, right? How to equalize. So for instance, now I don't see this move quite often, right? But it's kind of like tricky stuff, right? So 92, so we have a typical, guys, typical Catalan endgame. We have bishop g2 versus bishop c8, right? Usually if everything is okay, like equal material, like white is better, it's kind of like what Catalan players strive for, right? Like we enjoy this kind of like edge, right? That's why, of course, Black cannot allow to take. So very, very important move, knight a5, very, very important defensive move. And so, you know, go and get the pawn, like not so easy. And knight a3 has to be played, because otherwise, how to get the pawn back, right? Like, and since we played knight d2, it's not that we can continue just playing pawn down. It's like not a great position if we don't take. So knight a3 practically forces to take bishop a3, right? Because otherwise, again, we take on c3 and on c4, and we can claim advantage. Bishop a3, ba3, bishop a3, ba3. Now castle. There is also, I think, like after that, also like they discovered that bishop d7 might be okay, but castle so far is okay, and knight e4. Castle knight e4. So that's the theory. Now even like I think like there was a game of Vishwanathan Anand, like he drew here because, well, he came prepared already in 2018. So he took on e4 first and then played e5. Now in this game, Black played knight e4, bishop. No, I'm sorry. Knight e4 is main move. e5 was played. E5 was played, right? So this is how you solve the problem of this bishop, right? So that's the major problem in Black position. So e5, bishop d2. Very important idea, right? Very important idea. Attacking the knight, bishop d2. So now first capture. Now idea, guys, knight c6, knight d6. Interesting compensation, right? So not we are pawn down, but similarly our pawn structure is not great, but it's all compensated by right now bishop pair, better coordination, like, and so on, right? So not surprising that she actually decided to go for this. Seems more safe, right? Like why to allow knight d6? Now, of course, bishop c3. So guys, basically now it's possible to say confidently that white regains the pawn, right? e5 is hanging. So guys, you understand where we are going, right? e5 is hanging. So like, I mean, we will get the pawn. f6 would run into bishop d5 at least, right? So, and normally she decided to play bishop e6. I mean, when we see this position for the first time, I mean, I think it's like super logical move, right? Now, taking into account how this game developed, it seems like I came to this conclusion. Maybe to give up the pawn like this, and I would even say it's two pawns, like to give up two pawns. Of course, like if you don't know, you don't want to do this, like you are now pawn up and now suddenly you need to sacrifice. Why two pawns? Guys, because after this, also b7 is hanging. But in return, like if bishop b7, there is counterplay. C pawn is very strong, and to be honest, our double pawns, I mean, it's not such a big deal, right? But psychologically, it's hard to do because you like, well, you just pawn up, and here like seems like pretty safe. If you play bishop e6 and so on, and like why to go so like crazy, right? Like giving up 2 pawns. So she played bishop e6. She played bishop e6, guys, and we finally got to the position which will be the topic, like which is actually the topic of our class, right? Now, I'm just thinking about myself. I would think like, well, I know some ideas in this type of pawn structure and endgame, so like, well, definitely I would play. But guys, I see many players that would say like, oh, well, let's draw, agree to draw, offer draw. Like I see a lot of players. Guys, now, what do you think? We obviously, guys, you see that we are checking this for white. Why white has chances in this endgame to play for a win? Guys, what do you think? What are the factors? Can you name a few factors, like what it can be? No, white. We are checking this from white side, Navneet. Okay, so the question is why, like why it's playable, why it's not just draw like many other endgames. Weak pawns on c file. Not so relevant, guys. e4, f4, f5, no. Double pawns, black double pawns, we also have double pawns. c6 target, yeah, all this, like it's all minor things. Now I'm waiting that someone mentioned the major factor here. Rook is open file. I mean, black just played rook d8. Bishop is more active. G7 pawn. No, guys. More precise. Like I sound like Suresh. You kind of like pretty close, but I want a very like clear explanation. G7 pawn. What G7 pawn, Kushal? I mean, I'll put f6. King will be active soon. I mean, I don't know. Guys, like, how do you find all this and you're not a7 pawn? Oh, Suresh, let's read. Most pawns of our is on dark square, so we are more defending our. We are more. No. That's not exactly. Guys, the main thing here is the quality of the bishops. The quality of the bishops. Now, this bishop, light square bishop, restricted by his own pawns. Pay attention. Now, our bishop is very good. Right? So there is this like rule. If you play with the bishop pair, you kind of like with bishop pair, like I'm sorry, you opposite color bishops. So you have one bishop. You better put pawns on the different color. Let's say may only in case like you need to defend and you know that you already defending, it's only chance. Then you can put pawns on the color of the bishop and protect them. So there is this, but usually middle game, normal position, you try to keep it open, right, guys? And that's the major thing here, because like talking about like double pawns, we have double pawns, files, it's all irrelevant. It's all irrelevant, right, guys? It's only right now, it's only the bishop pair, like the difference in the quality of the bishops, right? Now, so black played in this position rook d8. So it's to the question of the d file, right? To the question of d file. Now, guys, but by the way, I forgot to mention, but I believe that most of the players already attended my classes, but I see some new names. So what we are going to do, I'm going to ask question, guys. You get one attempt to answer. So-called game mode, right? Like if you answer once and then second time, I don't remember second time already, right? Because I saw you answer. So guys, please think, play, like if you want like maybe explanation why you played or just a move, it's good enough. And then if I have a chance, I'll mention your name. So why to move here? How we continue? So the goal to play for a win, right? So we understand. So we need to prove that it's not so drawish, like, and there is life, right? Okay, Bongo, I see. Mm-hmm. Guys, let's do a little bit more, like maybe 30 seconds. I think like the majority responded already. So those who have not responded, you still have a chance. Okay, guys, let's move forward. It's very unusual. Nobody gave the right answer. Very, very unusual, right? Because, you know, it's like, it's subtle move, nuance move. Guys, the best move in this position is bishop c3. Why? Because anyway, this will be the best square for the bishop. And what is more important, guys, to stop potential idea of c3. Now, any other move that you suggested, nobody suggested rook d8. Guys, first of all, like some like I was surprised many people like recommend this move, and we just talk about like not placing the pawns on the squares. What about e4? Like imagine that after this I can block on e4. I can play bishop d5 or f5, and you cannot advance. So that's not a good idea for, right? Now the point is that black actually might want to play. So for instance, this move, right, was quite popular. Guys, c3. Black will be very, very happy to open this diagonal. Right? And it's not even a sacrifice because we get a2 potentially. Or, well, I mean, you can take, right? You can take and take on c3, but then what? You'll stay with the rook on a1 forever. So anyway, I will get back probably, like at some point, right? And it's kind of like also like, to be honest, like these pawns are not so like important, but it's more important that black kind of like got active, right? So now like if white wants to keep the extra pawn, white has to give up the bishop, like the file, sorry, to give up d file, and now bishop light square bishop is worth. So that's a very important idea that we have to watch out, right? So even in this position, it's a prophylactic thinking, right? And by the way, guys, I believe that one of the good practical advices here from black perspective, I would go, I think it's mentioned by Kushal. I personally would go this c3 right away. So now this time it's just a pure pawn sacrifice, so we don't get any a2, but just to activate the bishop, taking into account how this bishop, like how it was in the game, you will see that will make a huge difference. And just, just get a little bit activity. Bishop on c4 is nice. And then we can talk about, potential tendencies, like drawish tendency with these opposite color bishops, right? Because my bishop is good as well. So that was important resource. That was important resource. It's not like it's must play, but this was the first possibility, right? Now, rook fd8 was played, bishop c3, and f6. So to the question of the weakness of g7, right? Of course, f6 followed by king f7. Guys, now very important. So now we have to show how we are going to play for, like for a win, right? What exactly we are doing, what is our chances, and so on. Guys, I want you to maybe suggest the plan, move and plan, and you have one attempt. So if you answer in 5 seconds, there is a good chance that it's wrong and you don't have chances to fix this. So please spend at least 30 seconds. Move and plan. Guys, you can start answering. Like it's a okay, guys. Basically, almost everyone, like I think there was a move rook ab1 also recommended by someone. It's not a bad move, but we actually, there are like not really that we can invade anything, right? So there will be always defense rook d7. So in order to invade, we'll have to take on d8 or something. So it's right now, guys. The plan is it's very clear to advance the majority. Bring the king. We'll see, right? So the move definitely f3, not f4, but f3, and advance the majority. That's the only plan, right? Now, f3 was played, guys. F3 was played in the game. King f7, logical. I think somebody mentioned here, Suresh, he mentioned h5. Deserved attention, but wouldn't change much. King f7 was played, guys. King f2 first. And then black decided to trade. Rook d1, rook d1, rook b. So next question, how to continue? So we got f3, we got king f2. What next? Sania, that's a good answer. Mm-hmm. Suresh also like nice. Okay, guys. So let's do. Let me give you a chance, like 30 seconds. Okay, guys, very important crossroad, and I see especially for you guys, because many players kind of like it was basically in some sense split. Now couple of guys that I mentioned, they recommended the best move g4 in this position. This is the plan. So what exactly the plan? Preparing g5. Guys, prepare on g5, whether we need rook g1, whether we need h4, maybe g5 works tactically. Idea to activate our bishop. By the way, guys, very important to understand, and I want you to remember this rule. It's actually starts, what I always like it to mention this rule when we are talking about, let's say, bishop pair. Let's say we have a bishop pair, right? Like every manual, chess manuals gives you example. Oh, well, you need to open up the position and then bishop pair is very powerful. Yes, of course, no questions about this, right? But in reality, there are many cases where it's very hard to achieve, to accomplish. It could be long-term goal, but in short term, like you don't see, like it's semi-close pawn structure, how to open, you don't know, right? So there is another rule, which is super important in my case, and in many cases, it's more practical, which called activate the bishop, whichever color your opponent doesn't have. Because many cases you have bishop pair, but he has one of the bishops, right? And knight. So that's usually, of course, there are many cases when it's two knights, but mostly it's bishop and knight. So you're trying to activate the bishop, which he doesn't have, right? The color. Why? Because he has no opposition. Now, this rule actually takes you to every other position, whether it's opposite color bishops, whether like even you exchange down, you play rook against bishop. You still want to activate the bishop logically, right? What else? Right? And always the reason he has no opponent, and that's why it will be strong, right? And activate means not just to be like in decent position where it controls the square. Why I want g5? Because I want to target g7 or maybe like invade with the rook or something like this. Start the play on the king side. Right? Very important rule. So it's always like I even have this kind of mindset. Like I get this position where I have the bishop and opponent doesn't have this bishop. I immediately start thinking where I can get it set. Very important, right? Guys, many players. So first of all, rook d6 was quite a popular answer. Guys, there is not so much achievement here. I can do rook b6. Rook b6, and even if necessary, c5. Right, guys? So this is very important. And of course, it goes without saying. This endgame is playable only for one reason, that we still have rooks on the board. Now, with trade rooks, it's draw. Dead draw. Right? Now, guys, e4, Julem, like I know you mentioned there are a couple of other players. What I don't like, guys, and that's maybe another topic for another lecture, you move the pawns, keep in mind there are squares that you cannot cover anymore. So I even never thought about this, but I knew there is d3 and something. And while you were thinking, guys, I immediately I asked myself the question, and what is happening here? Like if I just straightforward go to the square, what is happening here, right? Seems like, because I can even sacrifice, right, if necessary. Like, let's say you play rook d7, I can go rook b1 maybe, right? But maybe, I'm sorry, it's rook d7, right? Rook d7, and I definitely have ideas with the sacrifice, like rook d3 and counterplay because my pawn starts rolling, right? Okay, you take king, I go king g6 after that, no problem, right? We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need to allow this kind of active counterplay. I'm saying all this, you know, guys, this is the last thing, like, yeah, so basically creating a weak square d3 potentially, that's correct. The last thing in this position, like to lose this position, I'm like, you know, okay, we are not winning, it's understandable, but to lose this position, it might be psychologically very bad. Like I always, like, you know, we don't need this risk. Guys, okay, g4 was played. G4 in this position was played. Black played c5. I mean, it's, I guess, like it's the move kind of like neutralize rook d6. There is always rook b6, maybe just useful in general, not to think about some bishop d4 ideas, maybe. So we continue the plan, guys. We continue the plan. No brainer, right? h4 with idea g5, and a very clever move h6 from black perspective here to play h6. So even if g5 is happening, it's, you know, guys, we trade pawns. So one of the defensive methods, guys, right? The more pawns we trade, the more chances for the defensive side. And it's pretty clear that black is already the one who is defending, right? Guys, what we can do here? What do you think? So here it's very interesting, actually. Very subtle idea, I would say. So you probably, everyone wanted to play one move and then you start thinking, what might be wrong with this move? Very strange line, Suresh. What is like king back and forth? What is this?
Boris, do you think it's a good idea to push a4, a5, block the pawn?
Okay, we'll keep your answer for. Okay, guys, so there have been different answers. First of all, guys, we discussed the idea that we need to activate, like, so I don't like h5, like fix the pawns, but how you will get to the pawns, right? And so we go for activating the bishop. So we play for g5 break eventually. Now, very popular answer was rook g1, right? Very popular, and it looks very natural, the most natural move, preparing g5. This is how we get the play, because, you know, if he goes g5, that's basically pawn on f6, right? So we can play maybe like rook h1 here and potentially, or start maybe invading d file. So yes, so there is this option, rook g5, right? Rook g1. Now, okay, g5, very important. So guys, unnecessary risk for us. Like, why to allow this? So I immediately discovered, like, let's say he took the pawn, like rook g1 we play. Probably that's the idea, right? To get the pawn back. Now g4. We don't want this pawn structure. Fg4, we don't want, right? And not to forget that f4, our two pass pawns, bishop f5, and he will block e4, rook e8 if necessary. So we cannot get e4. If we would get f4, e4, maybe another story. Right? So rook g1. What's the issue with rook g1? This bishop d7, guys, interesting. G5, everything is good. So a g5, rook b6, right? Counterplay. If you play bishop b2, there will be c3 or rook b6. So the only winner in this quiz, Adriana. So that's a good start. You know, first time she answered, and guys, but it's not fair. It's two female players, so she knows what to do, right? Like, I'm joking, of course. Guys, a4. a4, it's not like, of course, it's very important factor prophylaxis against this kind of counterplay, bishop d7, rook b6. But in general, guys, it's also like the same game. There is no reason to rush. So even we take a small improvement. So let's say getting the pawn to a5 for the future. If one day we attack a pawn, it's great. Still, rook g1 with us. It's not going anywhere, and there is no counterplay from black. So very, very nice move, and very nice answer. So she's Adriana now 100% when she answered. So very good statistics. Okay, guys. So a4 happened, right? So hopefully you understand. Like king e7. So black has nothing. Just wait. There is nothing that black can do. So we play a5. Rook b7. So just waiting. You see, guys, because the point, maybe you want to play rook d8, but then rook b1. It's kind of like the same situation, if not worse for black. And guys, how fantastic our bishop controls squares to invade. So for us, doesn't matter. Like his rook on d8, d2 under control, b2 under control, right? So she played rook b7. Now, guys, I'm not even answering. I'm not even asking you because I think it's pretty obvious. Now rook g1, right? So now we got the pawn. So we move with our plan. Rook d7 basically keeps waiting, right? Rook d7 and g5. So that's pretty obvious, right? Take. So that's why h6 was played in order to trade. King f7. Take king f7. Now, what's the plan to move forward? Only one answer so far. Danush, well, can you give me like the follow-up? Suresh, I don't remember what did you say? Okay. Yeah, it's hard to give the follow-up after this. Okay, guys. So yeah, it's very very interesting. Like there have been like rook b1. So gf and rook b. Okay. Julem, I understand. Guys, so I want to discuss a couple of ideas. So like very popular was king activation. Now in general, not a bad idea. Now my concern is this: king e7. Suresh, but rook g3, then what's the point? Then you have to go back. Rook g3, you're not like really improving. After discover check, you go back, right? So I thought like people will say like, okay, we come here, right? So we activate it. Now, what's the issue? I have the same problem here. Let's say I move the bishop. I move the bishop. And if you do e4, once again, I don't want to allow the square. It's always counterplay, always. Right? But if we don't play, so what we do, like rook g2, passive, no? Guys, so what happened, like, was very clever, like gf6. So first of all, like, you know, guys, there is no reason to keep this pawn structure. We just kind of like decide. I don't see the scenario that we need g6 because it's also a target, right? So we open the diagonal, the bishop, right? And now, Julam, like, so you were the closest one, rook b1. Rook b1. So besides activating the king, we can also activate the rook. Don't forget about this, guys. Still rook, we can activate the rook now, especially with the pawn on a5. Now, but she played very clever. She first played rook h1. So idea rook h6. I'm pretty sure everyone here would respond with king g6 or king g7. So in the game was king g7. Now, guys, I can tell you that in general, what I want to say about this position, it's one of those positions that I call 50-50 positions, meaning 50% white wins, 50% draw. Like, I'm not talking about some blunders, right? Like, hopefully, guys, there is nothing to blunder, right? Like here. So now, of course, if you put on the computer always falls. But now, for instance, one of the ideas that I know personally, like I would never play this move, but computer says it's fine. And then because like it's immediately rook h6, and he's like, oh, well, nothing happened, king e7. But of course, and king is coming, and somehow computer holds this position. Like, but guys, there is a difference. Computer will hold any position, right? So we're talking about human chess. So she played rook h1, and there was king g7. And then, so there is no squares to invade, rook b1. So rook b1 is a great idea, but why not to have king on g7 first? King f7 back, right, guys? And now also, like, it's pretty obvious that we invade rook b8, right? But again, very nice insertion, like rook b5, rook c7, and then rook b8. Right, just in case that rook will be on c7, not on d7, not to think about rook d1. Rook e7. Rook e7, and now she played rook h8. So I guess the idea to have rook h6, some kind of threat, now you asking what about king g7? I think this is the idea, to have rook here, so potentially here. Now if rook d7, then rook c8 already, so probably we'll get one of the pawns. Very nice, very nice, like rook moves, right? Like it's and yes, we have a maneuver. We have rook d3. I think check, right? Kushal, check on c7, and then rook d7, rook c6, or rook c5. I can take, right? So no trades. Like we are not trading rooks. So of course, eventually we'll have to move the king for it. But first, we want to exhaust all the options with the rook, right? Rook h8 played here, decided to play. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to stay on g7, but that's appeared to be serious inaccuracy. And now immediately white took this opportunity, played rook f8, rook f7. Now again, like we'll move the rook to the queen side, but first check. So I want to see either rook g7 or king h7. King h7 was played, guys, and rook d8. So it's very funny, these maneuvers, it was seemingly like nothing special, but with this h8, d8, c8, right? Like we're maneuvering and suddenly there are problems. I want rook d6 and rook d7. Rook d7, already f6 is unprotected, right? So nothing to talk about. King g6. Rook. So now what is happening? Rook goes here. And rook goes here. And finally, no, c6, guys. I mean, you know, I said maybe like in the beginning, the pawn to win one of the like c6 pawn irrelevant, but it's nice to have it. It's not that we are paying the price allowing some counterplay, right? So king f7, but still, right? This position, is it win or not? It's kind of like opposite color bishops after all. So played rook c6, now very nice. So absolutely fantastic play with the rook, absolutely fantastic. So bishop is tight, right? Cannot move. Like rook obviously cannot move, like rook c7, always f5. Now, guys, what now? Kushal answered. Anyone else? Suresh, Sanya. Yes, guys, it's time for the king. Now, e3, g3 doesn't matter because eventually we are heading to f4. Rook e7, king f4. So now kind of like there is the attack on e2 pawn kind of like fails. There are like no ideas. I think like to attack, there is always rook f6 check. So keep waiting. Keep waiting. Now here she like maybe it was like some time question. So played a couple of moves, like I guess waiting for the plan or something like, or maybe like, yeah, I guess like rook c5 idea, actually king e5 that there is no check, right? Rook d8 was played, then probably decided that king e5 is okay, but this idea is even better. Rook b5, rook d7, guys, besides king e5, what we can do? Yes, guys, remember we started to move a pawn and it was seemingly just nothing special, right? It was like small improvement, but why? I mean, here's why. So now rook b7, big threat. So it's already winning. King g6, king e5. Rook e7, and now rook b7. So that's all, right? Rook e8, rook a7, and few more moves, white won, right? So actually black even, you know, guys, black even finally got e2 pawn, but like you understand the a pawn, pawn got to a7, so he just played a4, and it was very easy. It was very easy, started from here. Guys, very impressive, very impressive. But by the way, I wanted to say that this game, I was wondering, but I was pretty sure that there will be not so many players. I have this game on my Chessable course with a name Russian and Game Technique. I mean, maybe they will change the name. I'm joking. Nowadays, it's like not a good word, right? But that was one of the games out of, I don't remember, like 15 games or something like that. So actually, I have another game there, like with bishop, opposite color bishops. So just the idea was to prove you like that, you know, there are these, there are ideas, there could be still a lot of play if you understand better, like, you know, you play against someone who like didn't study, right? And he would think like, oh, well, it's probably draw. I mean, I might overdraw, maybe my opponent overdraws. And meanwhile, you play and you deliver your plans, right? Activate the bishop, like you go and you open the diagonals for your bishop. Place pawns correctly, right? Do not trade everything in order to get to bishop pair and to bishop endgame, right? When it's only one bishop. This is where there are a lot of drawish positions. And you fight, and maybe you can get a few wins in this kind of position. That would be nice bonus, right? Yeah, so that was, of course, like, you know, a little bit unusual. Like very strong players, equal material, and it's actually endgame was very unpleasant. By the way, there is this type of play. There are even positions in I know one variation in Nimzo, when this type of pawns, like almost this type of pawn structure, but it's rather pawn on d5, isolated pawn, bishop on e6, and white is having bishop on d4, let's say, and we advancing f3, g4 also, but 3 pawns on the king side. I mean, I have seen also grandmasters squeezing this kind of thing. Yeah.
Boris,
So
time
yes.
for questions. Yeah.
Yes. Let's do, guys. I mean, I do always like it's hard to.
Yeah, we have already 4 of them. So first one, Sania has a national tournament in 5 days. What she should do to get optimal performance now, because only 5 days left.
But the question, what is the rating, guys? And you know, everyone has its own like routine before the tournament, right? Like if you have a coach, you ask the coach what he recommends, like number 1. Usually my advice, I tell my students, you know, let's say they work, they have some planned books. So I'm like, you know, drop everything. Now, 2 major things. 1, tactics, solving tactics in order to be like warmed up, because quite often what is happening, we go to the tournament and we are rusty, right? And first game we lose, and then it's not the same tournament, right? Or we don't score what we need to score in first rounds. So warm up tactics, meaning you don't need to solve some sophisticated tactics. You can even like go and the level of puzzle rush and just like 20 positions in a row and kind of like start working on tactics like that, right? Just kind of like get your brain going, right? Like, so that's the idea, to warm up. And second, openings, because openings we tend to forget. So just to revisit your openings, what you have, if you have opening files, maybe you have some like accounts, maybe you have books, revisit. Like if it's a little bit more advanced level, I'm saying like also like that's the opportunity to update files, right? So once you revisit, you can just press in ChessBase like online, and you can see maybe new games, or maybe Carson played recently this, or Wesley Saw, or someone. So then you can add this material to your file. So that's 2 major things, like what I recommend. But guys, it's very personal. If you have coaches, ask them, right?
Mm-hmm. So next one, I'm 55 years old, not your subscriber, have been attending lessons here. Can I become a 2000 rated player if I start playing tournaments now, or am I too old for this?
No, guys, I don't believe there is this thing like too old. It's like practically any age. I think like, well, chess is becoming very, very young, especially you can see in India, right? Like if you are not grandmaster until age 15, that's a problem now to compete with these young guys. No, guys, there is no reason like 2000. I don't know which level you are. Like if you're a beginner, might be hard, but if you are already some 1700, 1800, I don't see the reason why not. With proper training, with efficient training, like maybe good advices from someone, if possible, coaching. Why not? Why not? Right? I absolutely don't see a reason why not.
Mm-hmm. Leslie says, I love G and Boris sessions, and once a week lessons are very few. Can we get 2 lessons every week?
Yeah, guys, that's already, you know, it's a logistics question, and it's Norther and me and schedules. Well, for now, it's been quite a while that it was once a week, right, guys? When I did also opening sessions, it's not easy with the schedules. I appreciate that you like the lessons. Yeah, so that's very nice.
Yeah. And last one, Rahul asks, my daughter is 8 years old and she is always watching GM chess lessons on Nurture. Should I stop her or let her continue? She is not focusing on her studies, I believe, playing and watching only chess. What should I do? That's funny.
Guys, this is like difficult. It's a question of parents, right? It's what you decide, how, like, maybe chess is more important, or maybe there is a good, like, you can like combine both together. That's already not like chess question. It's rather question of parenting, right? So, but I can tell you that if she finds this interesting at this age, 8 years old, because usually this people at this age, like they cannot really see it and listen to like a lesson for many minutes, right? Maybe like they cannot keep attention for a long time, but the fact that she's listening and it's interesting for her, maybe to try with chess, right? Like serious learning. Why not?
Yeah, thank you very much, Boris. It's time to end up this session. So
thank you, Adriana, for moderating. Hopefully, guys, you enjoyed.
Yeah.
I'll see you all next week.
Yeah. Bye.